and welcome in Pro Football Today. It is the big game just around the corner, and we've got you covered here on SportsGrid. Joe and Ari alongside Mike Carver here as a lot going on this week in the lead-up, Mike, to the big game. And our crew, of course, on site, on location, right in the heart of it all in Las Vegas. Those guys are talking to everybody, in fact, from what I understand. And the great news is you and I get to showcase all that, kind of put a little behind the scenes together each and every day for folks who might not have had a chance to watch all of the great stuff that's happening there in Vegas. But I, for one, am very excited to see what some of these interviews coming up and what they got going on there.
Yeah, we've got it all for you here, Joe, that's for sure, with the big game special. We've got all the best of what the crew is doing out there in Vegas, Sin City, the Mecca, the hub, as Pharrell always loves to call it. And we'll give you the best of the best. As I'm just glad we're finally here, Joe, to be quite honest with you, because you know this, for so long doing this, it takes forever to get to this game. Now that the week's here, getting some insight about it, talking about the game, hearing from the best. It's going to be fun, Joe. I can't wait to get moving here.
No, it is. And, of course, all throughout the week now, we're starting to see that the players are rolling in. Already the 49ers are complaining about their practice facility.
First controversy of the week. Right?
Come on. Can't we
first
please?
Controversy.
I didn't know that. Did you know that? Rotate that? The home team, they just rotate it every year? There's no rhyme or reason, right?
There's no rhyme or reason to it. I know that everybody wants to think it's a big conspiracy because the Chiefs are in the Raiders facility. Joe, I got news for you, and you know this too. They just dumped like $100 million into that UNLV athletic complex. Like, that is a brand spanking new. Go look at the pictures of the equipment of the UNLV athletic complex. Trust me, they're not having a hard time. It's not like the hot water ain't on, Joe, when they go to shower after practice. They got whatever the NFL did to screw up the field, that's their problem. But then they asked them all about it at the media night, Joe, and they all said it was no big deal. So why is it a story? I get they don't want to, Shanahan, no big deal. We'll practice on it. Who cares? Same thing with everybody else. Purdy said it. Why do we care then, Joe? Why? Because we need something to get everybody fired up Super Bowl week. We've been waiting over a week now for the game, and we need something to talk about. So let's talk about the bad field. That's what we need, Joe.
And not even bad, like, it's too soft. What? What are we doing? What are we doing, 49ers? And by the way, just for reference, Kansas City was the away team last Super Bowl against Philadelphia. They had to practice off-site at, I believe, Arizona State Stadium there. So didn't hear a lot of complaining of the field being soft. But I did hear a ton of complaining, if you recall, about how the field last year, well, it got oversaturated, and the field was actually terrible during that game, if you remember, with Philadelphia and Kansas City. So I'm hoping the NFL does a better job of making sure that the Raiders field is better than what it was a year ago.
Well, we could only hope that, Joe. Here's the problem, though. When they did their media night, they had to roll out the brand new field and put it outside. And what's it doing in Vegas, which it normally doesn't do? It's colder than ever, and it's raining like every single day. So the great, nice field that they paid hundreds of $millions for that they rolled outside, I guess that's probably going to get wrecked out in the rain. And then they're going to wheel it back in later this week, and we'll see how it goes. It's always something, Joe. It's always something.
Amazing. And yet here we are talking about it, but I am sure, let's face it, I'm not a big conspiracy guy. We all know the only conspiracy is Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Did I say that out loud? I think I just did. But and Roger Goodell even had to answer questions.
Nothing wrong with the rest.
Come on. When you get to Roger Goodell and he's got to answer about Kelce and Taylor Swift, we've completely lost any sense of direction in this country here, Mike. I have little hope it's going to get any better from here.
You're right about that, Joe. We've lost that. And I think we'll even give you a little sprinkle of that later on this hour right here on the Big Game Special. We're going to give you a little bit of that with the commish, which is always exciting. And I like the one because he does that like State of the Union, right, Joe? Goodell at the beginning of the week, the State of the Union, Super Bowl week. And he They always ask about the refs. And the refs get worse every year. You know it. I know it.
Yep.
Everybody watching knows it. But Raj has to make sure, Joe, that he sticks up for the Zebras. I think that they do a great job. I think that they're the best in the business. Raj, they suck.
Yes.
Let's get serious here. Come on. They don't do a good job, Raj. You know it.
No, they're terrible. You know it. I know it. And the best we can hope for is, fingers crossed, that they don't play a big role in anything that may happen in this game here.
Like last year.
Well, I'm just saying, the only thing we can hope, they avoid listen, mistakes are going to happen. Just learn from them. Make sure the field isn't drenched. Yeah, right. Just make sure the crew's better. Just, work it out here, Goodell. Work it out. Just make sure the field's right. And make sure, whatever you do, that the ref crew that you have this year doesn't inject themselves into the game when it doesn't need to be. I will say this, though. I do think what we see is what we get here this week as far as the market and the line move. I don't see this thing getting to 3. I don't see it getting to a pick-em. So I think what we see is what we get, both with the side and total, unless you think we're going to get a whole rush of money coming in before kickoff.
I'm not sure. I kind of lean to where you are right now. You had that initial movement the first 48 hours, right? After the matchup was set and the line is set, 2.5, 2, 1.5. Then it slowly creeps back up to 2.5. I would be stunned if you ever saw a 3 here, and I don't think it's going to get anywhere close to getting back down to pick them. Closest it got was what? 1.5, maybe a couple places got the 1, maybe. Yep. But I don't think that we're going to be there. We always hear every year, 90% of the money on the game comes in the 3 days before it. Everything that you've heard so far doesn't matter. I don't think that despite all of that rush of bets that are still going to come in this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I don't think that's going to be enough, Joe, like you said, to move it in either of those directions. And the total seems pretty tight right now. Maybe up a half or a half. Because what does everybody do in the Super Bowl, Joe? Up and away, baby. Overs. They love betting the over in the Super Bowl. So you'll see them hammer that.
Oh, public loves their overs, but the good news is it has a way of evening itself out basically before kickoff. Also, we learned that I think the estimates, $21 billion will be wagered this weekend on this game, and we have got you covered into making some of those smart sports investing decisions here. We've got a lot coming up here on Pro Football Today. We're going to take it out to Vegas and let you hear from some of the people on site, on location with SportsGrid for the big game. More of it coming up next here on The Grid.
.47 is one of the hardest numbers to beat, period, for an NFL football game. A lot of combinations that can fall 47. You decide. Of course, you're getting great two-way action. That's what you want as the book. You don't have to move the number. Right. Biggest game of the year is the easiest game to book in the world.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They reel off the Chiefs, do 21 straight points. They win the game 31-20.
I've been selling this because of the 23 billion is going to be bet on this game in the States this Sunday. That's insane. And this place, Vegas, they're going to make billions of dollars if the Chiefs don't win.
Ferrall Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm digging deep, fellas. I'm digging deep. Christian McCaffrey minus 220. Donnie, how could you do that? The price point is way out of control in this. Keep it simple. The goal is to win money, not to outsmart everybody. Mahomes is minus 140 to throw 2 touchdown passes. And if he's going to, every single thing suggests a wide receiver will haul in at least one, if not both.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
0 points scored in the fourth quarter of that Falcons Super Bowl, and the Niners were shut out.
Yep.
So in the 2 biggest games of the 2 Super Bowls, one as a coordinator, one as a head coach, he hasn't scored a single point in the fourth quarter. And I tell you what, if they don't, on Sunday, they're not winning the game, bro.
Exactly.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Pro Football Today. The big game here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Ranieri alongside Mike Carver and the crew on site live in Las Vegas all week long, having a chance to talk to a number of different media personalities, players, former players, getting you guys ready for the big game that is coming up. And in fact, Gabe Morency had the opportunity to catch up with Pete Sheppard of the Tony Bruno Sports Network, and they had a few interesting things to say about Patrick Mahomes. Here it is.
The 49ers are psychologically damaged. It's in their head. So I'm all over the Chiefs now because of the field. It's all in their head. The practice field, they're going to be distracted. They're going to be disturbed. All the excuses.
I don't like it. Listen, I don't think it's the end of the world. But at the same point in time, it's like, I've never heard this before. Have you ever heard of a team in the Super Bowl that doesn't know where they're going to practice? Like days before the game. Like this is, it's just insanity. Now, it's going to get worked out. I knew right away, Pete, when I saw it was announced, as somebody that's lived here, and UNLV, listen, UNLV now, they play at Allegiant Stadium.
To my interns, be careful.
Yeah, but beautiful facility.
Yes.
But they're Sam Boyd Stadium. You ever been to Sam Boyd Stadium?
I have not.
It's on top of a toxic dump. Like it's literally, there used to be like a garbage dump. There's like Air Force waste
So how
in
did
the
Randall
ground.
Cunningham survive that?
Barely. All right, barely. So, like their facilities were not up. Like Bishop Gorman, the high school's facilities were always known as nicer than UNLV's. But their Fertittas put a lot of money into this new facility. It is state of the art. You've got a weight room, and it was state of the art. But as we stated, the Niners found that the field was just a little soft, and they don't like soft practice fields. I think it'll get worked out, but it's not. As somebody that likes San Francisco, it's not what I want to see. No, it's sort of like, though, a band whose sound check got screwed up. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, that's not good. But the other thing, too, we were talking about this a while ago. In Phoenix, we were there for the Super Bowl, but even the Cardinals, every game, every home game, they undo the turf and then they wheel it back in. I thought I remember even at the Super Bowl there was some concern about how.
Yeah, they took the Cardinals turf out and they brought in new turf.
Well,
it's like, why don't you just use the Cardinals turf?
Well, that's what they're doing now. They're putting in new turf. That's not the Raiders turf they're putting in. It's been coming. It's flown in from California, and people are concerned. Maybe
it seems like they overthink a little bit with this stuff, right? It's like, listen, guys, we've been playing NFL football on this field all year.
Yeah.
We're playing the Super Bowl on this field. Like, what's the problem?
Who else plays on that field right now? Anybody they have a soccer team that plays on that field at all?
Well, the Raiders haven't been on a little while.
Yeah, that's.
So as far as the game is concerned,
I think that from the handicapping perspective and from the fan perspective, it gets annoying. Listen, you were a Patriot guy.
Yeah.
So, and it was sort of like, God, Tom Brady again, 10 Super Bowls. Now we're into this Mahomes world right now.
See, I like it.
And then some people wanted Detroit, right, to, the upstart.
Yeah.
But now we sort of, this is blue blood. This is like, Kentucky, North Carolina or something. And you know what I mean? This is blue blood, San Francisco 49ers, modern dynasty, old dynasty. Mahomes trying to chase down Joe Montana's legacies. And how about this, too? I was thinking about this. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference, bro, between being 3-1 in the Super Bowl and 2-2. Like, there's a lot on the line for Mahomes here, too.
Yeah, but there is. But, his legacy is already sealed.
No, it is. But it's a lot like LeBron and Jordan. Yeah. There's a difference between never losing in these games.
Yeah. But sometimes, it is a team sport game. I don't know if you know this.
I guess.
It's a team sport. The quarterback always...
They blame the quarterback all the time.
Some places... Sometimes I blame the coordinators.
I will say this, though. I'm not anti-Taylor Swift. I'm not anti-Travis Kelce.
Not his fault.
I think Kelsey's a cool dude, actually.
I do, too. It's not her fault they put her on TV all the time. I think people have gotten ridiculously out of control. They make it political, which is stupid.
I don't understand how that happened.
Because people are just reaching.
Like, what was this? Like, I don't know. Like,
reaching.
No.
Bob Costas came on the other day. It's like if she wore a MAGA hat, then this wouldn't be an issue at all. I just think
just leave her alone. She's a pop star.
She doesn't have a sign up at all these games saying, I'm Taylor Swift, show me. She doesn't do that.
No.
And then she was assaulted kind of in the runway by some woman swearing out everything else.
And you saw...
People, get a life.
You even saw her once at the game even said, will you effing leave me alone?
Yes.
Like the camera, she was like, come on, leave me alone. Like,
yeah,
it's not her fault. I don't have a problem with it. If anything, Mahomes' family's out of control. His brother's out of control. I got to tell you, too. Listen. That guy was lit. Look at that picture, bro. There's drunk driving and there's lit drunk driving.
Absolutely. And you got to feel bad for Patrick. I mean, his dad was pretty good Major League Baseball player back in the day. His brother's just an a-hole, nut job.
Yeah.
And the dad is just, you got to deal with that. And
he's got his wife out there talking all the time online. It never ends for him. Yeah.
His wife with a pedantic blathering, good term, just going on and on. I mean, that point, you talk about being distracted. He's probably like, geez, I can't wait for the game. Everybody get the hell away from me.
So
nobody's coming. I'm not taking any family, no friends.
No, if I was him, I'd shut them all down. I don't like betting against Mahomes. I mean, he's the modern Michael Jordan.
Look at against the spread. Look at the numbers.
Yes.
13-1 when he's an underdog.
Oh, yeah, no. So he's 11-1-1. 11-1-1 ATS. But this is another one, Pete, that people don't talk about. He's now 18-3 against the spread when the point spread is 3 points or less either way, which means big games. Pete, Sheppard, Tony Bruno Sports Network. Hey, you're the man, Pete. It was great seeing you, man. We're going to have a great time this week.
Even more happy and handsome in person.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Same with you. Hey, we're throwing it down live here, Media Row.
All right, good stuff there, Gabe. And, Mike, let me ask you here. Is this a defining game for Mahomes? It feels like we've gone through a decade and a half of the Tom Brady's, and Bill Belichick. It feels like we're going to have to go through another decade of Mahomes and Andy Reid at this point. But I don't know. People forget he's actually lost a couple of Super Bowls still. So where is he in the, history of the game if he wins this or if he loses this game?
Well, look, Joe, I think the first thing that we have to obviously put in mind here is that this isn't probably not the last time he's going to be in a Super Bowl, right? That's why I don't think it's the end-all, be-all what happens to him in this game, because I think that he will be back. If he wins, though, obviously it accelerates him even further. All I heard them asking him about on Monday night at the media night was, well, can you get to 7? Can you get to Brady? Can he get to 3 first? Can we get through Sunday? Can we get to 3, and then we can get to 4 and 5 and then 6 and then 7, which comes after that? So obviously look, Joe, he's so good. All right, we know that. He's a stone cold killer. He goes out there. He takes care of business. I know everybody's scared to death about going after him this week, but I've seen him get beat in a Super Bowl before. Now, you got to hit him, just like all the great quarterbacks. Happened to Brady. You go to Super Bowl against Brady and you knock him around, you beat him. Tampa knocked Mahomes around. They beat him. So that was where the focus now, Joe, lies on Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, it falls on those guys to make it as hard as possible on Mahomes, or else he will have his third on Sunday night.
Yeah, it's people forget too. It worked well for Brady because they didn't have to pay him anything early on, right?
They never paid him the right amount.
and to his credit,
took a discount.
He was the guy that said, "Don't pay me. I'd rather you surround me with talent." Right? So this is kind of the first iteration. Never the top
this
10 isn't necessarily Mahomes, though. But
never.
This isn't Mahomes, though. Mahomes is already making $400 million. It's going to get tougher unless he decides, I'd rather have. Let's face it, they couldn't afford Tyreek Hill, so he went to Miami, and voila! Congratulations, you're making $400 million. Can you keep doing this, though? Is the big question that Mahomes, Andy Reid, the Kansas City Chiefs. Something has got to give, because if you can't hold on to some quality talent around him, this could very well be the last time that we see Patrick Mahomes in the big game. It doesn't get easier from this point, making that kind of money. All right, when we come back, we're going to send it back out to Vegas and hear from the guys, talk about the latest odds movement next here on The Grid.
Forget what your offense is, like the Baltimore Ravens did against the Kansas City Chiefs. Work off of Christian McCaffrey, but I do believe Brock Purdy is ready for the moment, at least play-calling wise.
Kyle Shanahan, who called the plays as the offensive coordinator, had a 25-point lead, and his running back, Devontae Freeman, with that 25-point lead, touched the ball 4 times in the second half.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl is set in Vegas. We get a rematch from just a few years ago.
The only consistency in the playoffs has been Travis Kelce.
Brock Purdy, back-to-back leagues throwing 1 touchdown pass, right? He can't win MVP with 1 touchdown pass.
I hate the Chiefs, but I bet on them.
This is going to be a game that is played inside a field goal now from a spread perspective.
All that matters is there's one game left, the big game.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
They have played terrible football, and yet they always win. Have you noticed? Everyone keeps talking about how bad the Niners suck as they win every week. They win every game, even games they should have. They're down 24-7, and they still won.
Now we have the first excuse when the Niners lose on Sunday night. They practiced on a bad field at UNLV. They didn't get the proper conditions.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Pro Football Today here. The big game just a few away here. It feels like it's taking forever to get to, but it'll be here before you know it. And the good news is we've got plenty of folks in Vegas right now, including the Pro Football Today gang, who have their finger on the pulse of what's happening, certainly in the marketplace. In fact, let's hear what Ben and Joe Lisi and Kevin and the crew have to say, Donnie, about the current odds and the market movement here live from Las Vegas. Here's what they had to say.
We had a complete line flip last year for Super Bowl 57.
Right move, too.
Okay.
Right move. Don't worry about losing that game, Eagles. It's the right move.
Do we hang the banner still?
I think you should. CLV banner?
I mean,
that's for sure.
Yeah, we can find the trash cans out here now. I think we could take a photo with them. So I don't know, is there anything, so it's with the Chiefs, right, from prior Super Bowls, Ben, that you're using as you enter into this one?
Not necessarily, because I think that's one of the fascinating things of Super Bowl trends, and I love the trends. I've looked at the last decade of Super Bowl results and how short these numbers are in comparison to, as we talked about, the late 90s, and if you won the NFC, you were laying double digits in that eventual Super Bowl championship game. But it's always interesting because you use those trends to inform what you see on the most significant stage, and even the fact that Chiefs have been here, Kev, for the fourth time in the last 5 years, this is a very different version of Kansas City than even last year's team, or the team that faced off against the very team they will on Sunday inside Allegiant Stadium in the San Francisco 49ers. But what does stand out to me, Donnie, when you look at these numbers, there's not all that much movement in the spread, right? It opened very briefly at 3 in favor of San Francisco. Ton of public love for Kansas City. Gets down to 1.5. A big bet back on the 49ers, now 2 in a hook. We're talking about a field goal or less. The last time we saw a number greater than 5 was way back in February of 2008. It was that Super Bowl between the Steelers and the Cardinals, Super Bowl 43. That was the last time we saw a number that was greater than 5 points for a Super Bowl matchup, showing you how thin those razor edges are once you reach this stage of the season.
Which is fantastic. We're not dealing with, 3 touchdown spreads and it's going to be a blowout, so just dip into the props. But also, if you see that graphic come up again, we always go back to nobody wants to bet against Mahomes. Oh, my God, the Chiefs win all the time. Well, the betting public apparently doesn't care about that. Chiefs 3.5 down to 3. Chiefs minus 2.5 down to the Eagles as a minus 1.5. You saw that line right off the bat go from, let's just say, 2.5 to 1 and right back up to 2.5. So apparently, as we're lining these games up, not a lot of people are having fear betting against the Kansas City Chiefs when you would think that most people are like, oh, just Michael Jordan and lay it down here on Kansas City. And that's not the case.
But I do wonder how much of those moves that we saw, which is a crazy thing, how much of those, I mean, hey, listen, this is Pro Football Today. I wonder how much of those moves, though, were public betting versus a big sharp play, versus a big syndicate play, versus a huge bet that came in leading into that football game. If everybody last year was on the birds, looking at Philadelphia as the best team in the National Football League. When you look at Super Bowl 55, in which the Chiefs were the favorite, a ton of the public handle was on Kansas City against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Did they have enough to keep up with this lethal Chiefs offense? And yet, Joe, the line worked against them. And, of course, that was the correct movement as Tampa won Super Bowl 55, 31-9. It was one of the more dismal outings we have seen out of this KC team that has been on this dynastic run.
All right. I tend to agree with the guys here, Mike, as far as the market goes with this game. We talked about it at the top. I just don't think we're going to get to a field goal. I don't think we're going to get to a pick 'em. So usually what we're doing is we're waiting this time, right, to say I'm waiting for the better of the number. I'm expecting it to rise, so I like to go. I kind of feel like, hey, if you like the game, you like the team, bet it. I don't think we're going to get really any sort of crazy movement between now and kickoff on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, this is the type of line, Joe, right? That it's not a crazy thing where, like, you're right, waiting for the best number. It's not like there's a 4 and you're waiting for a 3, or there's a 3.5 and you're waiting to go. This is where it is. It's not going. It's not getting back to 3. Are the houses at 2? Maybe going to get to 2.5? Yeah, I think that's very possible by the time they kick off on Sunday. Could maybe the 2.5 go back to 2? Could the 2 go to 1? Maybe. But all that stuff, Joe, is right there. I don't think it's earth-shattering stuff. I think the pick'em number and the 3 number that we spoke about at the beginning are the key numbers here, clearly. And I don't think it's getting there on one side or the other by the time we put this ball in the air. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. It is what it is. If you like one, just go for it, Joe. It's under 3.
Yep.
Take who you like.
Yep.
Pick them to win. You want the Chiefs? Take the money line. You want the Niners? Lay the 2.5, Joe. That's it at this point.
Yep. To me, this is all about, don't even worry about the spreads here, folks. Just go ahead, pick the winner, bet the money line, and be good, because the chance of this game ending within 1 or 2 points of one another is probably not as great as a team just winning by certainly enough margin to be able to get you covered one way or the other. Now, as far as the game and the total goes, well, that's one thing. But as far as the prop market goes, I would tend to try to get in where numbers actually matter, and they will change quickly. In fact, there is one prop that Kevin is looking at, and it involves Brandon Ayuk. And here's what he had to say.
I'm on Ayuk's 4.5 receptions, though. For me, all of a sudden, Kansas City, the stuff started to swap a little bit. Forever, for the whole beginning of the year, you just bet number 2 wide receivers, Devonta Smith, Josh Palmer, didn't matter. They would always get through the numbers, right? But if you notice all of a sudden now, Tyreek was the top guy, had 5 receptions in the football game. Zay Flowers was the top guy, 5 receptions, and had big yardage. And then you really start to go through what they've done against playoff teams this year, and they've embarrassed Stephon Diggs both times, and they did hold A.J. Brown in check. But Christian Watson had, I think, a 6 or 7 reception game. Tyreek, the first meeting, still had 5 catches. And Amon-Ra St. Brown still went through his number receptions-wise as well. Ayuk is now checking into a bit of a do category here. 6+ targets in both games. That through the postseason, only 3 receptions in those games. He's going to have to be a lot more fruitful on his target share, I think, in this conference or in this Super Bowl, and I fully expect him.
He's got a point here, Mike Kev does, about the over. I love the price of Brandon Ayuk. He averaged just around 4.5 receptions a game throughout the year. Big players show up in big moments, and he has certainly been a guy that has been targeted by Purdy, especially when Debo went down. So I don't hate it at that kind of price there. What do you think?
I don't hate it at the price either. Obviously, he's had some monster games this year, especially when you think about how these teams clearly want to take McCaffrey away. They want to take Debo away. Sometimes that leaves – somebody's got to eat, right, Joe? When you're taking away other guys, someone's got to be there to eat and make plays, and Ayuk has been there more times than not. So I could absolutely see an over 4.5 for Ayuk this week. I could see some big yardage for him. I could see him get a big catch in this game, maybe over on his longest reception as well. But this is the Super Bowl, Joe, and your big players have to make the big games. And for the Niners to win this game, I just still believe this is a Christian McCaffrey show for me, as far as I'm concerned. I think the only, he has to have a monster game for them to win this thing. The Chiefs know it. We know it. Everyone knows it. And I still don't think they're going to be able to stop him. I don't think he's that banged up. I know he's had some minor injuries here over the last month and a half, but I saw good numbers, Joe. You mentioned how those numbers, the prop numbers, are the ones that change the most from when they come out to when you get to kickoff. And there were some McCaffrey numbers, especially in the touchdown department, where Joe, you've seen all year, minus 320, minus 275, minus there were some minus 190s when this thing first came out. And I know minus 190 sounds, but Joe, he scores every game. He's in the end zone every game. And I saw even a number for 2 touchdowns at plus 315, which it's been in the plus 185, plus 225. And I grabbed that the night after the championship game for McCaffrey with the 2 tutties. So you're right. You've got to watch these things because you'll see that Friday, Saturday, Sunday of this week. Some heavy changes on reception totals, on yardage totals, on all of those things.
Yeah, it's you got to have a game plan, and you've got to figure out. All right, for Ayuk to have, and there's a lot of guys to choose from. Kittle, Ayuk, as far as receptions goes, We're all thinking that the key for them winning is obviously running the ball, being able to run the ball, which is what they have done extremely well. It also happens to be the weakness, if any, really, for this Kansas City defense. So if you're running the ball and having success, you got to be a little worried that pick your poison. It's either Ayuk, it's Debo, it's Kittle, because I don't think they're going to want Brock Purdy throwing the ball 45, 50 times unless things have gone terribly wrong, Mike.
I agree, no doubt. And I know we didn't really get to do much with the Chiefs side of things, Joe, and we probably will over the next couple of days, but we know it's all Kelsey. We know it's all Pacheco. We know how good Rice has been. One of these guys, Joe, these secondary, tertiary guys for the Chiefs, is going to go over their yardage, and I think is going to score a touchdown. I haven't figured out yet, Joe, which one it's going to be between Noah Gray and Justin Watson, and if Tony plays or if Sky Moore plays. But you know, Joe, one of those guys is going to make one big play in this game. We just got to figure out which one it's going to be and be on him.
Yeah. Amen to that. All right, much more to get to out from Vegas as Pro Football Today continues here on the Grid.
Think about last year's game. It ends on the failed Hail Mary, and both teams run out onto the field. That's what you're looking for, is a game.
A chaotic end of the game.
You can't get the game.
Oh, great point. Yeah.
2-point spread in the game. Think it could come down to the wire. Everyone says script, Taylor slip, all this stuff. So I like 1,600, no Gatorade point.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
They have played terrible football, and yet they always win. Have you noticed? Everyone keeps talking about how bad the Niners suck as they win every week. They win every game, even games they should have. They're down 24-7, and they still won.
Now we have the first excuse when the Niners lose on Sunday night. They practiced on a bad field at UNLV. They didn't get the proper conditions.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
I'm digging deep, fellas. I'm digging deep. Christian McCaffrey minus 220. Donnie, how could you do that? The price point is way out of control in this. Keep it simple. The goal is to win money, not to outsmart everybody.
Mahomes is minus 140 to throw 2 touchdown passes. And if he's going to, every single thing suggests a wide receiver will haul in at least one, if not both.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I saw a study that said 24% of Taylor Swift fans actually do follow the Chiefs now.
Sure.
And when you consider how many fans she has, it's quite a lot, 24%. Right?
Oh, yeah. You seen Travis Kelce's Instagram, his social media? Yeah. Everything. Right. It's huge.
Oh, no, listen. Like his agent said, he's going to be the next Rock. Like, they're setting him up to be, the next superstar.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Pro Football Today here on the Sports Grid Network. It is the big game. Joe Ranieri alongside Mike Carver and Scotty Farrell. Well, he is right in the heart of it in Vegas and had an opportunity to talk to former Atlanta Falcons general manager Thomas Dimitroff, and here's what he had to say.
So Thomas Dimitroff, my dear friend, is here. And when he ran the Falcons, he said that he saw hundreds of surgeries on players with the organization. But he said none harder than Farrell's open heart surgery.
It blew me away when I was reading about it. No one's valve. No
one's off.
No one's valve blew off. We did have one guy, Caleb McGarry, our right tackle, who had ablation. Nowhere near, of course.
I don't even know what that means.
I think they just singed something. It's an electrical thing.
Right.
I feel really odd speaking about it. I'm great to see you. When you showed me that picture, brother.
Yeah.
Blown away.
It was crazy. They so I did a before and after photo on Facebook. I don't usually do that. Like I'm not a hey, I'm gonna show pictures of myself today on social media. A lot of guys like to show pictures of themselves. I'm not a guy that does that. I'm really not. But I had a picture of me from like 15 years ago at Howard Stern, and I had long hair and had a hockey jersey on, and I was doing it with my producer. I was doing like a Black Power thing, like the Olympics, and then I went fast forward to now, and I had a picture of me at a dope museum in Soho, standing on a wall with Bob Marley smoking a spleef, and I'm standing there with a cool silk shirt on and a tan, and I looked terrific, but it wasn't from now. It was like before I died. I just picked a picture of me this year that I looked good before I died, and then when I died, I told you when I got out of the hospital, I looked like Ted Kaczynski. I had a white beard, like, going everywhere. I had the guy beard, the guy that never shaves, that guy. You know the guy that has, like, hairs that stand, like, they're like a foot off of his neck, and he just doesn't ever notice it in the morning? You know the guy that misses, or how about the guy that shaves too quick on the way to the airport and he misses chunks, and he's got chunks on his face? That's what I looked like.
Oh, my God.
It was awful.
So, I mean, you're how post-surgery?
I'm 4 months out.
4 months.
And I'm now walking. So, like, yesterday I walked 6 miles, which was way too much. I'm supposed to walk no more than 2 miles a day, but what I've done is I've not listened to anyone tell me not to work out, because for 4 months I've done nothing, and then the guy finally cleared me to walk, and so I've been walking 2 miles a day. I gained 25 pounds since the surgery.
Wow, okay.
Because I sit around doing nothing. I gamble and watch sports and bet, and I eat bags of Doritos and popcorn and pizza, and I gamble and watch movies. I can't do anything. I'm not allowed to do anything. So finally one day, my daughter's like, "Wow, you're really fat," and I was like, that's it. I'm going for a walk. And I started walking 2 miles a day, and I'm walking fast. I'm listening to Sirius XM music. I'm trying to get my head right, and I'm walking and walking. And yesterday in Vegas, I made it 6 miles between the airports and going back and forth from the Mandalay to my hotel and to the MGM. I've been walking, and I feel good, but I have to be careful because, like, it doesn't take much to get me, like, sweating and getting me, my heart going too fast.
Do you feel like you don't have to worry? You were talking about Doritos. You don't have to worry about cholesterol. Like,
no,
it's not
I have no clogged arteries at all. So they have this monitor on me. If you notice, it says 30 minutes to the morgue. That's what they engraved on there for me. That's my nickname. And I have to, it monitors everything. My heart rate, standing heart rate, resting heart rate, beats, strain, stress, everything. It follows everything. I didn't know they could follow your strain and stress. Like, can you imagine the stress when you were a GM in the NFL, the stress? And they would have had like a stress monitor on TD. Thomas Dimitroff with a stress monitor. And your wife wants to see your stress monitor. So I have to do that. I have to do all kinds of meds and stupid stuff. It's awful because telling the story, you can see Carver High's face. He's the guy on the bottom. He just doesn't want to hear it anymore about me dying. He's like, oh, Jesus. And then he said the other day to Mafia on air live when I was off on a Tuesday, he went, he said, do you notice how the story just keeps changing? Every 2-3 weeks, it just gets bigger and bigger. Like, because I'm not really trying to tell the story. Like, I try to tell people that ask me about it. They go, geez, it's so great to see you. How was it? I'm like, well, it really sucked. That's what it was. It sucked. So take me back to a year from today when you were starting your company and you were doing something new and different with Sumer, and you were, did I get it right?
Sumer, right. Yeah.
So I think last year I got it wrong. And this time I got it right without even, I remember that I got it wrong. So I said to Coffee, I go, I think it's Sumer, because last year I butchered it. I was like, here's Thomas Dimitroff from Summer Sports. And you're like, it's Sumer, idiot. And then your partner Eric dropped an F-bomb. He goes, listen, bro, it's F and Sumner.
It is Sumer. Nice.
I got it right,
and
right?
we're 2 years in. Here's the interesting thing, though. So we're doing a lot of cool stuff. We just started a new scouting platform, selling to a lot of the teams, looking in the NCAA. There's a lot there, right? We can talk about that because we also have that betting side eventually that I know will be fascinating to you. But I'm blown away, just to bring this around, what's going on in the NFL. I'm so happy Dan Quinn got his gig. I'm sure you might want to talk.
Of course.
There's so much going on right now. Raheem Morris getting the job there when I thought it was going to be Bill Belichick. I thought it was going to be 90-10 that he was going there. The fact that Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel aren't working right now, it's a weird.
What did you think when Raheem got that gig? And I've heard that people think he's the coolest coach in the league. Like, players like him more than any. Is that true? Is he the coolest? They say he's the coolest coach in the NFL, and that players gravitate toward him because he's so dope.
He is a cool cat, for sure. He is big smile. Here's what I say about Raheem. There's not another guy out there in coaching who is quicker-witted, faster speaking, like he doesn't miss a beat. He doesn't stutter over his words. This cat is smart, man. He's on top of it. He's coming into a situation where he has to change that, just change what Arthur Smith, Arthur's approach was very different than what his is. So Raheem comes in there now, and he's got all the players wanting to play for him. Like you said, he'll do well in recruiting and free agency, and we'll just see how it all is. They can't do anything without a quarterback. They need to find a quarterback, right?
Was that guy, your guy was here, Mike Smith, wasn't that your guy?
Smitty, yeah.
So what about, I saw him here earlier doing a show, and then Art had, bottom line, didn't go well for him in Atlanta, and then now he's with my team, the Steelers, and the thing that's weird about it is, you know how this goes. If you make your bed, you lie in it. So he coached down there, and people thought he sucked, and then he had all these star athletes, and they just couldn't do anything. It's unbelievable how they struggled. I mean, honestly. And then he gets the Steelers out to run their offense, and the people in Pittsburgh complained about Matt Canada. They wanted him dead, let alone coaching. They wanted him dead. They didn't. These fans in Buffalo, Pittsburgh, they don't literally get rid of him, kill him. And then they bring in a guy that didn't do well. And then now they hate him, and they've never even seen a guy work one day. All they know is they judged him off at Atlanta. He can't win for trying. How many times have you seen great coaches have to deal with that bullshit?
Well, that's a tough thing. You're exactly right. I mean, Arthur Smith is a smart guy. We have people complaining. I'm just living in Atlanta,
Right.
You hear people in the dialogue and they get upset. He's a good football coach, and it's good for him to go back into that situation. You're exactly right. I'm sure the Pittsburgh faithful are like, what is going on here? I think the opportunity for him to go and be around Tom. Are you a Tomlin guy?
I am a Tomlin guy. I love Mike Tomlin, but I am growing increasingly frustrated with their failure in the postseason. They have become a team. As a season ticket holder my entire life, I still pay money for the tickets. I never go. I sell them because I'm on TV every Sunday. But I am starting to grow the ilk of they're satisfied with making the playoffs, not winning in them. And I went to 6 Super Bowls and watched them lift a Lombardi trophy. I don't know anything about losing playoff games. They've lost twice in the Super Bowl, and they've won 6. And to have this 49er team catch them Sunday, I'm not having it.
Yeah, no.
I don't want the Cowboys or the Niners to ever win another one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
So I like Mike, but he's not winning in the playoffs.
I was saying Mike was one of those guys out there, and I believe this about Bill Belichick. I believe it about Mike Tomlin, and I believe it about, I don't know, Sean McVay. If I were to ever get back in, and I also said this about Kyle Shanahan. I don't know where your head is on that. I've always said if I ever came back as a GM, I would seriously consider a coach out there that I'd have to trade for. Sounds odd from a personnel guy. You're like,
smart.
You're going to give away. Yeah, it is.
It is smart.
Because nowadays, it is about. And I know the banter about was it Bill or was it Tom. You have to have both to be great. You know that. Well, you had it. Bradshaw. Gosh, how old are you and I? Mid-50s.
I'm 58.
When you watching Bradshaw, I'm 57.
I went to all 4 of them.
Yeah, you went to all 4 of them. Right.
My dad took me.
But Chuck Noll and Terry Bradshaw, there was a reason.
They didn't like each other.
They didn't, but they won Super Bowl.
But he was young and crazy and cocky. He was a Cajun boy. He didn't listen to his mama, let alone his coach. Yeah. And there are guys now that make so much money in the NFL, they don't listen either. Don't tell me you didn't deal with prima donnas that didn't listen to you.
Of course.
And they looked at you and they said, hey Thomas, good to see you. Yeah. Don't talk to me.
Yeah. No,
I don't want to listen to you.
No, there were guys like that.
And they're everywhere in the NBA. In the NBA, I watch a huddle now in the NBA. I play ball. I watch a huddle in the NBA, and I know the games my entire life. I've been around Bob Knight. I've been around NBA, and none of them listen. They're like, this guy's talking. They're like, oh, my God, can somebody order a drink or a pizza? They don't listen to him. Let me ask you this question, T. Yeah. Now, I want to know, because I'm so fascinated by you. I have to look at this schedule because they got me on this schedule, and I refuse to be done with you. I refuse to end this interview, Mafia, in 2 minutes. I refuse to also end the interview in the 2 minutes that I have after this break. What I'm going to do is roll his ass over like a pierogi, and we're going to talk to him at the top of the hour too. So what I want to do is I want to go back to your move. All right, so you're no longer the GM. And people, I think last year I was asking you, are people asking you, gauging your interest in doing it again? I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is what your life is like now compared to when you were in that hot boiling water, when you were in that stressful, strained nightmare, which you loved and you got off on. You got off on it.
No question.
No one that has that kind of juice and power and running an NFL team and running drafts. I've seen you do it. I followed you. I'm a fan of yours. I'm obsessed with your success of giving that all up to do what you do now.
Oh, my God. What a great lead in. It's tough. I go through waves on it, man, because I miss the hell out of the competitive side. Yeah, you can be a CEO of a data company and a startup. It's fast-paced and there's a lot going on. I'm able to spend much more time with my kids. Number one most important thing, as well as my wife. Really important. I miss that.
That's important now. Yeah. I will never listen to a GM in the NFL or a coach tell me how much they need to spend more time with their family, because when you were running that job, you never did.
No, you never did.
You owe them.
That's right.
You owe them that time.
You owe them.
Fair enough? Fair enough?
Yes, it's a great point.
And that changed you as a man.
Oh, no question. I go to the owners' meetings, right? When I'm trying to do a little bit of business. You laugh at this. I literally walk into the party and I can't get on in the party. I'm with Mickey Loomis. Think about this.
Power
guy from the Saints. We're supposed to be worst friends in the world because of division.
Right.
He's a real close friend of mine. He's like, Thomas, I'm sorry to do this to you. He puts over my neck the placard or the lanyard with his name, and I had to walk in because they wouldn't allow me in. Point is, I was part of the club, no longer part of the club. That hurts my heart.
So do you, and listen, when we come back, I'm going to ask you this question because we'll have a short segment, but I'm going to kind of throw it out to you now and let you think about it and stew it over. Do you ever lay in bed at night with your wife and say, I'm jonesing to do it again? Like I'm not. You're either fulfilled now or you aren't. And if you aren't, have you ever looked over and said, I want to get back into the NFL?
More to come here on Pro Football Today. The big game will be back after this.
Brady, they don't call pass interference nearly as much as they used to. They're letting the guys play this year over the last couple of months. Vinovich has the reputation of letting them play. We saw he called 9 penalties only in the last Super Bowl. I've already placed the bet. Total accepted penalties in the Super Bowl under 10.5.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
he doesn't run well, the Chiefs are really in trouble. If McCaffrey doesn't run well, there's a lot more options that you can actually use at that point. And that's how I'm trying to approach it and effectively. But also, Pacheco, anytime touchdown, if they're going to score a touchdown, probably going to be him.
That's a good look. Attempts from Pacheco if you believe Kansas City's going to play their style. If you don't, then maybe you go under that total in regards to that.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They reel off the Chiefs, do 21 straight points. They win the game 31-20.
I've been selling this, because of the $23 billion is going to be bet on this game in the States this Sunday. That's insane. And this place, Vegas, they're going to make billions of dollars if the Chiefs don't win.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
You a hat guy? Oh, I've got hats. I've got a jillion hats. I hear I don't have as many hats as you, but I don't.
You don't. I have a hat bag.
He has a hat
bag. I have a hat bag. I carry this
that's
around.
not a purse or man bag. It's a hat bag.
This is it. Look,
I love it.
I got to go everywhere.
And by the way, the whole Randy Moss receiver versus Randy Moss TV guy, the mistaken identity and all that. How can you confuse us, right? He's got hair. He's got hair, and I don't.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Back in. We got the big game coming up here, Pro Football Today on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Ranieri alongside Mike Carver. Mike, I'm going to tell you, we have almost made it the entire show without talking about Taylor Swift, but it's not as bad as it could be because we could be Roger Goodell because even he had to answer questions about Taylor Swift. Here's what he had to say.
What do you say to those who think it's all scripted by the NFL?
I don't think I'm that good a scripter or anybody on our staff. I think it's, listen, there is no way that I could have scripted that one. Let's just put it that way. But she is, or anybody in our office, she's a remarkable performer. She knows great entertainment. I had the opportunity to go to 2 of her concerts with our girls and my wife. She's the best of the best, and so having her come to NFL games, have her a part of that is nothing but a positive.
Yeah, it's crazy when even Roger Goodell has to answer questions about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. But Mike, I'm pretty glad that I think we have one more week of this, and that will be it. By the way, are you backing her husband to do anything in this game?
It's hard not to, right? What has he got? 12 straight playoff games with 70-plus yards, 11 or 12 straight playoff games with 70-plus yards. He seems to always find the end zone in a spot like this. Maybe we could put those two together, Joe. A little 70-plus receiving yards and an anytime touchdown from Kelce. I think that pays a pretty good price. So I'm looking there. And now I know all I need to know about the travel time from Tokyo to Las Vegas with Taylor Swift this week as well, Joe. I found all that out this week, too.
I was going to go to her concert until I figured out how far it was, and then I'm like, no, I'm good to go. All right, that'll do it. Pro Football Today here, the big game. More live content from Las Vegas coming your way here on the Grid.